Today, we are diving deep into the evolution of the symphony. We're going to see how it went from this polite, super rule-based piece of music into the massive world-building art form that, believe it or not, inspired the epic soundtracks you hear in movies and video games today.
So, I want you to think about the last time you were deep into a game, maybe something like Elden Ring, or you were watching a huge Marvel movie. You know that moment when the music just swells up and you get actual goosebumps? That huge emotional sound? Well, you might be surprised to hear that it's directly connected to music that's over 200 years old. And that connection? Yeah, it's the symphony.
So, to really get how we ended up with those huge epic soundtracks, we've got to go back to the very beginning. Let's think of it as level 1, where we learn the original rules of the game.
Okay, so way back in the 1700s, the symphony was this brand new thing. Composers like Franz Haydn and the famous Wolfgang Amadeus Mozart, they were basically the lead designers. They came up with a formula that was all about balance, clarity, and following a super logical structure. It wasn't about telling some wild story, it was about creating something that was just elegant and perfectly put together. And this was pretty much the standard game plan for every symphony. You'd always start with a fast, attention-grabbing opening, then you'd move to a slower, more song-like second part, kind of the chill level. The third part was usually a light, dance-like piece, and you'd wrap it all up with a big, fast, exciting finale. It was predictable for sure, but in a good way. You know, like knowing exactly how to beat a level in a game. So here's the big shift in a nutshell. On one side, you have the classical symphony. Small orchestras, a focus on balance, and a really rigid structure. And then, on the other side, where we're going, you have the romantic symphony. Everything gets way bigger, way more emotional, and a whole lot more unpredictable. This is the main conflict of our story. So, who was it that kicked off this massive change? Well, this brings us to the one and only, the man who broke the game.
This is our main character right here, Ludwig van Beethoven. See, he learned all the rules from guys like Haydn and Mozart, and then he pretty much decided to throw the rulebook out the window. He looked at this symphony and thought, hang on, what if this could be about more than just pretty melodies? What if this could be about struggle and joy and the biggest ideas of humanity? He was basically about to drop a massive software update on the whole music world.
And the update that changed absolutely everything can be summed up with just one number: 9.
His Ninth Symphony. Look, this wasn't just another piece of music. It was a complete revolution. For starters, he added a full choir of singers to the last part. This was completely unheard of, a total system shock. The whole piece was also way, way longer and more emotionally intense than anything that came before it. This wasn't just sounds anymore. It was a story about fighting through darkness to find pure universal joy.
So, what Beethoven really did was prove that a symphony wasn't just a container for nice tunes. No way. It could be this giant canvas for telling dramatic, personal, and seriously powerful stories. He blew the doors wide open for everything that came next. And what came next? Well, it was like an explosion of creativity. Welcome to the era of the epic sequel, the Romantics. Right, so after Beethoven's Ninth Symphony, it was like he gave every other composer out there permission to just go wild. The main goal wasn't to follow the old rules anymore. The new goal was to get personal, to experiment, and to use the whole orchestra to tell your own unique story.
And this led to a huge new trend called program music. This is literally music that's trying to tell a specific story or paint a picture in your head. A composer named Hector Berlioz wrote a piece called The Symphonie Fantastique, and it's all about the crazy dreams of a lovesick artist. I mean, it's pretty much the 19th century version of a concept album, or, a movie score without the movie.
So once the rules were broken, composers could choose their own adventure, kind of like picking a character class in an RPG. Some, like Berlioz, became master storytellers. Others decided to focus on pure, raw emotion. Some used music to show their national pride. And some tried to build entire universes out of sound.
Let's talk about Pyotr Ilyich Tchaikovsky for a second. His symphonies are all about the feels, turned up to 11. He basically poured all his own personal struggles and passions straight into his music. Listening to his stuff is like being on an emotional roller coaster. It's full of these soaring highs and absolutely crushing lows. If you've ever heard a piece of classical music that just hits you right in the heart, there's a pretty good chance it was Tchaikovsky.
Then you get composers like Antonin Dvorak. He was from what's now the Czech Republic, and he was convinced that the best musical ideas came from the folk songs of everyday people. So when he visited the United States, he was totally fascinated by the music he heard, and he wove all those American influences into his most famous piece, the New World Symphony. He proved that a symphony could celebrate a country's own unique spirit.
Of course, to express all these massive new ideas, composers needed way more firepower. And you can see here the orchestra got a serious glow-up. Back in Haydn's time, you had a small crew. With Beethoven, the team started getting bigger. But by the time we get to the late Romantics, it's a full-on raid party, a massive army of musicians with powerful brass instruments and tons of percussion. And that brings us to the composer who took the whole go big or go home idea to its absolute extreme, Gustav Mahler. His philosophy was pretty simple.
Mahler didn't just write symphonies. He built entire worlds. His pieces are gigantic. Some of them are over an hour and a half long, and he threw literally everything into them. Folk songs, military calls, bird songs, religious hymns, you name it, it's probably in there. Listening to a Mahler symphony is like exploring a vast, open-world map in a video game. It's an overwhelming and absolutely incredible experience.
Okay, so we've gone all the way from Mozart's super neat and tidy rules to Mahler's gigantic musical worlds. So what's the big takeaway from all this?
It's really this. The symphony completely transformed. It started out as this perfect, elegant container that was all about form and balance. But thanks to revolutionaries like Beethoven, it became this powerful, flexible tool for expressing all the messiness, the drama, and the incredible beauty of being human.
So, the next time you're in the middle of a boss battle, or you're watching a hero save the day, and that incredible music kicks in, listen for it, because what you're hearing is the legacy of this massive revolution. It's the sound of composers breaking all the rules to create something truly epic, emotional, and unforgettable. Can you hear it now? Thanks for tuning in.